Hi there, my name is Sven Lindblad, and I want to talk to you about 21st century expeditions. At the heart of the concept of expedition, the idea of being on an expedition, it's really discovery. It's learning, it's finding, it's seeking. That's what an expedition is all about. We are curious as human beings, and going on an expedition, more than any other form of travel, satisfies that curiosity. It's not passive, it's active, and it gives us something that lasts forever. Part of what makes an expedition so amazingly fun is there's a balance between what's predictable and what's unpredictable. And it's really the unpredictable that often yields the most wonder, the most magic. An expedition ship has to be really well thought out. It has to be able to be safe, and it has to be able to provide opportunity. And we work really, really hard to ensure both those things. I mean, after all, we're in remote areas. We have to be able to land in places wherever we wish. Hence, we use Zodiac landing craft, the finest expedition landing craft in the world. And we have to have technology and ability to take advantage of the wonder that's out there. Not only what you see at the surface, but often what's below the surface. The sea is a magical, mysterious world, and we care deeply about showing that to our guests. We believe very, very strongly that the key to any expedition are the people who are leading it, the captains, the expedition leaders, the naturalists, the historians, the scientists, people who help illuminate and bring to life these wondrous places that we're traveling in. And our expedition teams unequivocally are the best in the business. They're the most passionate, they're the most knowledgeable, they're the smartest, they're the most committed people I have ever met in my life. So let me recap. What is an expedition? First of all, it's charismatic geography, from the Galapagos to Antarctica, from Papua New Guinea to the Mekong Delta, from the Amazon to the shores of Patagonia. It's made up of an expedition ship or ships that are equipped to do the task. And above all, it's made up of people who have the passion, the commitment, the energy, the knowledge to take people into these wondrous areas of our world. Now, let me be clear. I'm convinced that an expedition is the finest holiday a person could have. Why? Well, think about it. First of all, you'll have stories to tell your entire life, to your colleagues, to your family, to your kids, to your grandkids, to your friends. You will never, never forget an expedition. So now I hope you have the inclination and time to take a look at one or several of these videos, these different geographies, whatever appeals to you most, and then hopefully you'll come and join us one day soon.
Welcome to the Future of Cruising, Sustainable Ships, segment number 8. I'm Joyce Landry, and as you can see by the video that we just showed, we are focusing on expedition cruising this time with Lindblad, special focus on Alaska. With us today, our guests from Lindblad are Amy Berquist, who is the Vice President of Conservation, Education, and Sustainability for Lindblad Expedition. In her current position, Amy oversees all aspects of the company's 50-plus year commitment to using travel as a force for good. Amy also led Lindblad's efforts to become a carbon neutral company. She works across departments at Lindblad Expeditions to bring a sustainability focus to each department and in everything that they do. Next, we have Anna Esteves, who's Director of Hotel Operations. Anna is an adventurer, an executive chef, and she, among other things, among other accomplishments, she launched a farm-to-table program in the Galapagos. Anna lives to feed the expeditionary spirit in all of us through food. I think we can really appreciate this. So I'd like to welcome my guests onto the program right now. Welcome, Anna and Amy. So we're going to start right away, dig right in. Our program will consist of a discussion We have some visuals for you. And then afterwards, there will be a question and answer period. And we'll get through this probably by about a quarter of the hour. So you'll be with us for about 45 minutes. Hopefully you can stay for the entire program. I think that you will be inspired. So let's get started. So as we said, Lindblad is one of the oldest travel companies around. And what I'd like to ask Amy is, tell us, who is Lindblad?
Sure. Well, Joyce, thank you so much for having us today. Lindblad, in the expedition space, we have one of the longest, if not the longest, history in responsible tourism. And sustainability is a really important part of that. So we're thrilled to be able to be here today and share our experiences. The Lindblad family name has been synonymous with responsible tourism back to the 50s. We've always been committed to the places that we go, the people who live there, the wildlife and the natural systems of those places. And today, this is true across all of our ships. We have 10 owned and operated vessels, and they range in size from 47 guests up to 148 guests. And then there's 5 additional vessels that we lease for certain geographies in the world. And on all these trips, all these programs, sustainability is at our core. And we're taking people out anywhere from 5 days, really short, compact experiences, all the way up to voyages that are 20, 25 days. So we're very versatile in terms of the length of programs that we offer. Mm-hmm. And our founder, Sven Lindblad, is pictured here on the left, but his father, Lars Erik, who you see on the right, he is considered the father of ecotourism. And both of these men have been pioneers in expedition travel, as I mentioned, more than 50 years experience. And Lars Erik, he was the first to take people to Galapagos and Antarctica who were not scientists. So there was a point in history back in the 50s and 60s, if you wanted to travel to Galapagos or Antarctica just to see the wonders of these places, you had to go with the Lindblad family. And Lars Erik actually paid the salaries of the first 2 park rangers in the Galapagos National Park, and he helped to develop some of the guidelines that are still used today to safely and responsibly manage tourism in that part of the world. And Sven, his son, he founded Lindblad Expeditions in 1979. It was sort of an offshoot of Lars Erik's company, which was land and seagoing voyages. Sven is strictly seagoing voyages. And Sven's commitment to sustainability today, we like to say it's baked into our DNA. It really is a mindset that exists from Sven. He passes it down to the company, and there's just a culture within Lindblad that sustainability is paramount to everything that we do.
That's great. Well, I know today that we'll be focusing on Alaska, but briefly before we get there, tell us a little bit about where in the whole universe you're going right now.
Oh, sure. Yes. Yeah. So here's a map. I hope the viewers will be able to see this. With our 10 vessels that we own and operate, and then these 5 additional lease vessels, we go pole to pole. We have 4 blue water flagships that go all the way up to the Arctic to look for polar bears and walrus, and then down to Antarctica to see the penguins and the killer whales and the ice, the incredible ice. And then those blue water vessels also go to other parts of the world. We have 2 ships that are stationed year round on the equator in Galapagos. And then we have 4 US flagged vessels that service North America and Central America. So Alaska, which we'll talk about today, and Baja California, Costa Rica, Panama, not to mention, we also go down to the South Pacific for voyages that are a little bit more culturally focused, in addition to the wonderful natural and exploring the ocean worlds. And then we have some other trips that are specifically cultural, like in Vietnam and Cambodia. So quite a wide range, more than 40 destinations that we visit.
Well, I'm one of your customers, so I can vouch for the kind of people that would go on a Lindblad cruise, but I'm only one. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your customer base? Like, who would be interested in something like this?
Oh, sure. Yeah, our guests are just incredible people. You can see some of them here exploring by Zodiac. They have a curiosity that they want to get out and see the world. They're not just coming to be entertained the way you might hear on the larger cruise ships. They want to get out, they want to be active and kayak and hike. But even within that, we are able to tailor the experience for different levels of experience and activity, because we do have some families and younger people that travel, but we also have folks up into their 70s and 80s, sometimes even into their 90s that travel. So we try to make the natural and the wonders of the world accessible to everybody. And they come to us, they book directly with us. They might also book through advisors or through incentive houses like Landry and Kling. We also have people that book through maybe their alumni groups and other affinity partners at museums. So they really come from all over, primarily from North America, but more and more we have travelers from Europe, from Canada, from Australia. And like I said, they're curious, they want to get up close and personal with the wonders of the world. And at the same time, they want to come back to a well-appointed ship that's comfortable, will have wonderful food, things like yoga and stretching and a wellness spa. So they kind of have the best of both worlds, and we can provide all of that.
I still keep in touch with people that I went to the Galapagos with years ago, actually on Lindblad, and I can attest to your fierce loyalty of your customers, because it was an experience that we all still remember distinctly, where we were, what we did, the animals that we saw. I mean, it really was an experience that lasted. So there's something about Lindblad. It's not just about the destination. I'm going to ask that, what's your secret sauce? What are you doing differently? And I think I'm going to lob that one over to Anna.
Sure, Joyce. Well, a lot of what drives us, it's our guiding principles, which is really our driving forces, from positively impacting the world everywhere we go, to being the leaders and excelling in knowledge and inspiring others. And for that reason, we have a team of expedition team leaders and naturalists on board our ships. Typically are undersea specialists or marine mammal experts, bird watchers, and specialists that really bring so much light and color into the expedition. They mingle with our guests. They're educating our guests as we go. They're up early trying to find wildlife and making sure that we're calling out the guests so they can come out on deck and they can come see it. They bring so much passion and enthusiasm to the expedition. So that's very, very special. We also have our unique program with National Geographic photography that we've typically have National Geographic photographers on board, and they do coach our guests into how best techniques and how to take great pictures so they can take these memories with them forever. So along that, and our crew, which is so special, I think that we have a winning formula. This is our Lindblad magic.
That's great.
Something else that we really are excited about is to show the guest, ocean conservation is so important to us, and the geographies where we travel are so unique that we love to show what's above and below the water levels, right? So we have tools for exploration like undersea cameras and hydrophones, where we can really understand what lives in that area where the ships are sailing. We have an undersea specialist which dives almost daily in the voyages, and they show and feature during our recap what's going on the water. So Alaska would be amazing for kelp forest and lots of jellies, potential octopus sightings as well. So really exciting, anemones and things like that.
So we're going to start getting into Alaska very shortly. And I thought that we would have just a quick little discussion on what you think the reason for people to go to Alaska would be. Alaska is a destination that could be a bucket list destination for a lot of people. I do know people who have traveled the world, but they've never been to Alaska. So they've kind of kept that as a kind of last thing. We'll do it sometime, but maybe not right now. And how do you feel about the attraction of Alaska and how people are looking at that location as a real enticing destination? Either one?
I'll hop in. One thing about Alaska, especially right now in COVID time, is it's very close to home. I know, some people might not be interested in being on an airplane longer than a couple hours. And Alaska is an amazing place to get to. You don't have to travel too far if you're coming from North America. But it's the last frontier. It's so wild. There's miles and miles and miles of coastlines and places to explore. And, with us, our ships are all designed with a very shallow draft so we can get into these hidden coves. You couldn't get to these places there's no roads. You have to go on a ship. So I think, there's a couple things that come to mind for me.
Additional to that, I think Alaska is grandiose. The glaciers are amazing, and the colors, the mountains, the snow-capped mountains are wonderful, and the amount of wildlife as well, you know, being able to see orcas and humpback whales and beautiful birds and bears. It's just something so unique and unheard of.
Now, I'm glad to hear you say that because I share your opinion. I mean, I've traveled also greatly. And if ever, when I get an opportunity to go to Alaska, and I've had the great good fortune of doing this now several times in my career, I'm always amazed. I'm eyes open at watching the calving of the glaciers and watching the whales in the water. I mean, it doesn't stop to captivate you. It just is, it's a very, very unique place in the world. And so we have actually, you brought a little video with you that will introduce Alaska. It's 1 minute, and I think it's going to give you the flavor. So let's start with that into our Alaska discussion.
Just know that this is about to be the best day ever.
Alaska is, to me, is just that place that is infinitesimally small and then massively big at the same time, and it just never stops producing those wow moments for me.
It's the first day I woke up to them saying, if you're not out here, you're missing out. Get out here now. What a way to wake up.
We're getting to explore virgin territory, essentially, and following bear trails.
This is magic. And he's on the move again. I gotta get another shot.
All right, we have hot chocolate, peppermint schnapps, and Baileys.
Cheers.
Black and white, black and white.
We were having a great time, and over the radio, we heard one of the other naturalists give a shout that we had black and whites. And that means orcas are in town.
It was really special, and I've never seen anything like it before.
Okay, you just brought me back again. So, your bird's eye view, getting that close to animals, is really has a lot to do with the size of your ships and the type of vessels that you have. So let's give everyone an idea of the kind of ship that you have and talk a little bit about that. So Anna, can you take that?
Definitely. So we have 4 U.S. flagged vessels built in the United States, purposely built in the United States to take on this type of exploration and expedition. We have 262 guests, very intimate feel. You almost, they're the National Geographic Seabird, the National Geographic Sea Lion. Almost every cabin takes you out of your cabin into an outer deck space to be so close to wildlife. Then we have the National Geographic Quest and the National Geographic Venture, which are our newest US built. They house 100 guests, and they have an amazing size, as Amy mentioned, shallow draft. So we can really navigate through small fjords and inlets, which is pretty amazing to be so intimately close to the water and wildlife. All of our ships have our Zodiacs that you've seen in the videos before. And we deploy those a couple of times a day, even for, you know, to get up for guest operations out in the wild and for wildlife seeing. So pretty incredible feels to be so close to the water. We have kayaks on board and paddle boards. So pretty adventurous feel and amazing size ships. Something pretty unique to the design of our vessels is our bow, but being able to be out on the bow to view and take on all of the ocean, and what that really means to not only us as people that work in the company, but also to our guests. That connection is so special. So most of our bows are designed with multiple tiers, so there's unobstructed views, and this is just the perfect opportunity. I don't know if you can see from the picture in the railings, there's space there for your binoculars and your cameras. It's just such a big thing of what we do, and to be able to be so close to the water and to feel in the wild, it's really, really magical.
If I could just add here, this is a choice that people have to make if they're going to go. I hope they all go to Alaska at some point in their lives. Do you want to be looking at things from an eye level view, which means smaller? Or are you wanting to look at it from a bigger view, which means larger? And there are certainly any number of very large ships that are in different areas of Alaska to choose from. They might have more in the area of maybe entertainment and such, but here the entertainment is the land, and that's what you offer, is the land.
Definitely. We really, we have the opportunity to be so close to wildlife with this platform, our platform for discovery, how we call it. So, you know, you could see whales breaching very close to you. It almost feels that you're part of that. So it's pretty unique to be so tied into nature.
So the expedition could potentially bring up an image for some people of roughing it or not having their comforts. And I know that you brought a couple of interior pictures of these vessels. Could you show us those?
Definitely. So over here we have pictures of a National Geographic adventure. So we have 22 balcony cabins, and then we have 6 cabins that are triples as well. If you can see the picture on the right on the cabin, every cabin can be converted into either queens or twin configuration for comfort and guest preference. All of the colors and the look and the feel is very organic, very colorful, very inviting. The cabins are not too small, but they're just the right size, right? We want to make sure that the guests are comfortable, and then they're spending a lot of time outdoors as well. To the right here, we have one of our wet units, which we, I have to say, like, as far as sustainability goes, we've partnered with Lather, which is our amenities company. We've been partners with them for a long time. They're paraben-free, sulfates-free. We don't buy any single-use bottles. Everything is in bulk, and we refill our dispensers. So, you know, everything to make the guest feel nurtured and safe. You know, none of these chemicals have any repercussions to the water either. So we feel pretty good about our choices as well as far as the interior. We have on the left here, we have our library and then our photo kiosk, which is an opportunity for a guest to get together and share pictures. It's part of our program as well. A lot of what we do is collaboration, it's community. That means a lot to us. Something to mention that, and I don't have it here in the slides, is that we have an open bridge policy, which we really encourage our guests to come up to the bridge, come talk to our captains, our navigation officers about where are we, what's going on, where are we going, show me the charts. And then it's really another opportunity for us to invite the guests into our world, right? And for them to feel comfortable and at home while they're traveling with us. To the right, we have our dining room with floor to ceiling windows, which a magnificent platform for viewing wildlife as well. I have a really good anecdote about this room in particular. We were pulling out of Petersburg, Alaska, actually, and we were hosting Dungeness Crab Feast, which is something that we do once a voyage. Beautiful, sustainable Dungeness Crab Feast, fall of the bone, ribs. And the guests were so excited. We were all there. And as we were pulling out of Petersburg, Alaska, a pod of orcas, 40, 50 orcas were escorting us out of Petersburg. And that was magical. So the guests inevitably had to put their sustainable Dungeness crab to the side and go and grab their cameras. And it was not just guests, it was guest and crew. We were all very excited and powered and charged by this encounter. And it was pretty special.
That's great. You know, because of your shallow draft, you have an ability to get deeply into Alaska at a remarkably short itineraries to get a lot in, because you don't have sea time that a lot of other, you know, larger ships have. Can you tell us about this, Amy?
Sure. So on the U.S. flagged vessels, we have programs that range from 5 nights all the way up until 14 nights. And the 5-night programs, they're relatively new for us in the last couple or few years. We used to have a 7-day program that was sort of our bread and butter, exploring Alaska's coastal wilderness. And what we have found in recent times is that not everybody has 7 days to be away from home or away from work. So we designed these programs called the Wild Escape. And our staff that have been exploring this area for many, many years, they helped us design these so that we really were still able to get the best of the best in a more compact experience. So these short night programs, the map here, there's 2 different itineraries. And you can kind of see we're in Southeast Alaska. So this is not the mainland Alaska that folks think of. The farthest north we get is up into Haines and certain parts of Glacier Bay National Park. But that's our US flagged vessels. Now we also bring one of our blue water vessels to Alaska, but that vessel does explore that way high North Alaska mainland. So all in all, we have a total of 8 different itineraries in Alaska that range from the 5-day up to the 22-day.
Amy, you mentioned briefly about US flag, but there may be people watching who don't know the significance of that. Most cruise ships in Alaska are foreign flag. And if a foreign flag ship, they're all the cruise lines that you know and are familiar with, they have to start in a foreign destination in order to go to Alaska by law of the Jones Act. So they start in Canada and go all the way up into Alaska, which is why sometimes you need 7 days just to get to a few ports and then back down into Canada again. However, with the US flag vessel, the uniqueness of this is you can see here, you fly into the heart of Alaska. So you can get so much in because you eliminated the sea days and you're actually active every single day and you have so much to do. And that's something that you really are standing alone for people who want a shorter event, meetings, conferences, incentive programs and such. You know, that's a real attraction. So what I'd like to do now is shift the conversation into an area that I don't believe we've spent enough time on in our Sustainable Ship series, and that's food. And that's the entire reason that Anna is with us today, to talk to us about locally caught, sustainable food. What is it like to really operate in a totally sustainable way, food-wise, on board a cruise ship?
Well, Joyce, our food program broadly has all of that in mind. It's sustainability. Every time we make up a menu, we plan a season, we have all of this in mind. And from local, where do we go? How do we feature the areas where we're traveling with, what grows there, what swims there, what walks there? It's so important for us. It's such a big part of the educational piece of it all. Sustainable, where things are from, how are they caught, where are they harvested, and how and why, right? Making sure that we're always creating that awareness amongst our guests and our crew to ask the right questions, because only by asking the right questions, we're going to be able to make the right decisions. Fresh, again, we've piloted farm to table program. We want to make sure that we are taking what's available in the land where we're at and bringing it to our guests. And zero waste, this is something that for us, we have a heads to tail approach on everything that we do, from training our crew to, again, our menu buildings. We want to make sure, not just with the protein, but with produce, how do we reduce waste? How do we take the maximum yield of that ingredient, that vegetable, and how can we cross-utilize things across the board? And something to go with our waste reduction incentive. We've been having a sign-up sheet for guests to sign up for their dinner entrees during breakfast, and this helps the chef kind of plan for how much portion and how many portions of fish or meat or vegetables to prep for. So then we really have a good finger on the pulse of how much to be able to pull out of our refrigerators and how much to prep, so we have very, very little waste. So that really resonates a lot with our guests, and they really like to get to be part of this. Our sustainable seafood program, it's really at the heart of our program. We started with, being sustainable seafood was, our bread and butter when it came to the seafood program. Now all of that sustainability has transferred to other areas. But, every season, prior to every season, we vet all of our choices with where things are caught, what species they're at, and how they're caught, making sure that we're not choosing things that have repercussion with bycatch or that are destroying the floors of the ocean. We have our chefs have the ability to tweak and change menus as they go. So it's not like a corporate set menu. We actually get together in collaboration before the season, after we've vetted with all of our vendors, the seafood options. And then they have the opportunity to change things as they go, depending on what's fresh and locally available. Another anecdote that I have about our sustainable seafood program, especially in Alaska, was the king salmon. Because we go through this vetting every year and we really pay attention to stock levels and how things are going and how the ocean's going, we started noticing a decrease on king salmon. It was a very subtle decrease, but it was year after year after year. And then, we started thinking, and we were thinking, hey, if we have this issue and it's decreasing, we would like to, take a break from serving it. We want to make sure that we're giving the ocean an opportunity to replenish. So we made that conscious decision to stop serving king salmon for 3 seasons in a row. We still have delicious options of salmon in Alaska, like sockeye and coho and silver. So we really gave an opportunity for that species to recover. So it's doing a lot better now. And 2020 silver lining that we were not sailing gave another chance for that species to recover, and we'll be ready for it again. So yeah, it just talks a lot about our strict policy and why it's in place and why we firmly believe it's the right thing to do.
Actually, that little COVID break that we had last year, I think probably did a lot of good, for Alaska in general, not having anyone up there and letting everything just re-energize.
Definitely. Our broadly with our Alaska program is so uniquely profound to this region. We serve what swims there only. We've extended our farm to table program that we started in Galapagos. We've extended it now to Alaska as well. So we buy off of Farragut Farms close to Petersburg. We serve local craft beers that, they use water from the glacier. It doesn't get any more local than this. So we make sure that we always have fresh food and fresh berries to have all of our guests feeling extremely nourished and fit for their expedition. And I'd like to point out a couple of our partners, more than our suppliers, they are partners. They've been working with us for years now, and they understand our mission. They understand how important it is for us to not get things packaged in single-use plastic. So we have a crate system where we bring our crates, they take our crates and they give us our provisions in our crates. So we're minimizing the single-use plastic, which is, it takes a very strong partner to be able to do this for a company. And that's what's so important about relationship building. We've recently started serving kelp, believe it or not, on board our ships, just because we want to introduce something so local. And this Barnacle kelp company, they harvest it responsibly, and it's such a great story, right? There's so much kelp in Alaska, and it's so nutritious and delicious. So we bring it to our guests. Our guests are excited to try it. Our Alaska salt, also, it's really made only with Alaskan water and flavor with anything that they can find in Alaska to add flavor. So we use this salt to top off our proteins and everything before meals. I'll talk a little bit about Alaska Brewing Company as well, they use glacier water to produce it. And yeah, our Tonka Seafoods, they've been our partners. I feel bad for them every time we're vetting everything, because if the information they're giving us about sustainable seafood is not good enough, we'll push back. We'll be like, this is not good enough. We need to get better. And then they work with us. So it's so much in the relationship building that it's incredible to be able to be this size and be able to create such a big impact in the world.
Well, bravo for this level of detail and your sustainability. And I think it speaks to how long Lindblad's been in existence, because I know we had earlier conversations that, where there are some travel providers now that are just getting to the point of stopping single-use plastics on board. You did that a long time ago. This is like part of your breath. It's what you do. And this is a level of depth that not everyone is up to right now. I don't think hardly anyone is up to this level of depth. So really good on you. And we've covered the food now, and I want to thank you, Anna, for bringing us into your food environment and understanding more about your sustainability. But there's more to sustainability than what we've talked about so far. We still have social responsibility, and I believe that, Amy, that's something that you can tell us about.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, we talk about traveling responsibly, but what does that mean? What is responsible travel? And, you'll hear different companies refer to it in different ways. What it means to us is it means that we're making decisions in the business. It's green business decisions. So we are a carbon neutral company. As Anna mentioned, we are free of single-use plastics that the guests will interact with on the ships, like the single servings and things in the toiletries and the bathrooms. We are also the first cruise line to implement a self-cleaning system on the ship. It's something we've trialed over the last couple of years, and it's now across the entire fleet of our owned and operated vessels. And it's essentially a system that the ships disinfect themselves. There's a coating that's placed on all the surfaces that could be touched. And then with that coating interacts when light hits it. And it's found to be very, very effective in reducing illnesses. And it also creates cleaner air for folks to be breathing. The crew and the stewardesses are not using single-use plastic bottles and all the water they used to use to clean. So it has that sustainability impact as well. So green business is very, very important to us. Responsible travel, it also means for us supporting local communities and preserving cultures. So in Alaska, which we've been talking about, we have worked with some artisan communities up there and also some of the First Nations folks in Alaska to help preserve ancient artistic traditions, such as making spruce root baskets. There's a woman, an elder in Juneau, and we helped through our artisan fund support her in passing her craft on to generations and making video modules, all sorts of things in that area. And then in terms of the local communities, we have a big effort going on in Galapagos right now. They've been very hard hit by COVID, and we're trying to raise money to basically bolster the economy and get people back to work in new ways. And then finally, of course, responsible travel is conservation. So I did bring a slide. I wanted to show a picture here of a humpback whale. Our travelers, Lindblad cares about responsible travel, but our travelers are so passionate about it. And since we started actively tracking conservation in 1997, our travelers have donated $18.8 million to support the places that they've visited with us. Now, of that amount, 1.4 million has been in Alaska. And the group that we are currently supporting, we've been working with them for about 20 years now. It's the Alaska Whale Foundation. And their primary purpose is to conserve marine mammals and coastal environments. So they care about the ocean, they care about what's living in it, who's eating what's living in it, and of course the whales. That's the big draw for everybody. So they will come on the vessels and talk with our travelers about what's happening undersea. They'll bring microphones, and we also have some hydrophones, which we put down under the water. You can hear the whales communicating with each other, doing a very complex community feeding behavior called bubble net feeding, and just really promoting research, education, and conservation of Southeast Alaska.
That's great. So we've come full circle. We've talked about Alaska, and we're about to get into our question and answer period right now. But while you are all viewing this 1-minute inspiring video as a wrap up, I'd like you to get your questions together and just enter them into the Zoom platform at the bottom, and we'll get your questions answered quickly. Thank you.
We used to conquer wilderness, and then there was a group of people who came together and said, let's not conquer it, let's let wilderness take us over.
It was just such an unexpected moment that I started crying.
My heart is so open and so happy to be here.
Oh my God, they're everywhere. They're feels dolphins. Ah, oh, nice. This is so great.
I'm in heaven. Connecting with another beautiful being that shares the earth with me, it's just, it's beyond words.
Okay, so now I'm misty-eyed. It always does it to me. Thank you for bringing that. So we have a couple of questions here. Why don't we get to it? Let's see. What are your plans for the 2021 Alaska season? Because we're all ready to go. Can we? Amy?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Anna, take it.
Yeah, so we're planning on starting in the summer in Alaska. You know, this has been such an unprecedented year with COVID and everything, but we're working with the local government entities, the Alaska Health Department. So we're planning on starting this summer in Alaska. That is our intention.
Okay. Do you know when you'll know that?
We don't know yet. We're still vetting. We're going through, you know, a lot has to happen with vaccinations, and a lot has to happen. We want to make sure that we're ready to go when it's safe to go. And we put safety first. So, but we're thinking early summer, potentially between May or June, we'd like to get started.
Okay, well, we will be all ears. Here's another. Speaking of self-cleaning ship, what are the COVID protocols on board? What can your guests expect, and will it affect their experience? So I guess that would be Anna also.
Right. So we have a team that we're meeting daily. We're meeting with CDC and local government entities to build the most robust protocols that we can. So you can expect everything from reduced capacity of guest capacity, but increase in improvements or enhanced sanitations. Sanitation practices like electrostatic sprayers as well to be able to sanitize big areas. We'll have opportunity to do onboard testing as well. So, you know, we'll have US doctors on board our ships as well in every destination, temperature checks daily. And again, we're going to be going remote, or everywhere that we travel to remote areas and trying to avoid the local communities to keep them safe as well. So our crew will also be tested bi-weekly. So all in all, I think we have pretty strong and robust protocols to get us started in a very safe way.
Okay, great. And Amy, got a question to you. We saw some of those short itineraries and say, where do we fly to start? We didn't talk about, you know, how does one actually get to you? Where do you fly to get to Alaska?
It's a good question. The voyages that are all self-contained in Alaska, they're usually out of Sitka or Juneau, but it depends on the itinerary. And then we do have some that travel through the Inside Passage, and some of those are northbound, so people could fly or drive to Seattle and then take the ship northbound. And other ones, they are southbound, so people would fly up to Alaska and then come home via Seattle.
Thank you. I know actually this was for you too, Amy, because I read that you are also in charge of your partnerships. So how do you work with partners like Natural Habitat Adventures? Do you advertise for each other, or is it less direct?
So Natural Habitat Adventures is a unique situation. We are actually sister companies. So we're parent-daughter companies. We are under the same trading, we're public companies under the same trading symbol on the stock exchange. So we operate independently. Natural Habitat Adventures is mostly land-based, but occasionally they will use the ship for a program, and occasionally we will cross-promote, but we also operate independently as well. But other companies, I mean, if we do a charter with an alumni group or a museum, we will advertise on behalf of that group. And if we worked with Landry and Kling, we'd be working very closely with you to help create some of the materials, use some incredible visuals that we've seen today, and put them into a brochure that Landry and Kling would then send out, whoever the partner was.
A gratuitous plug there, Amy, but thank you. Appreciate it. For either of you, do you have plans to go into South Central Alaska, Seward, Homer, etc.?
So that's an itinerary one. I'll take that. With our National Geographic Orion, this is one of our blue water vessels that I mentioned. That's where we are up in the mainland of Alaska. We have one that goes all the way out to Nome. And there is one that comes into Seward and the Katmai Peninsula. So if somebody's interested in that, definitely look for the Alaska programs aboard National Geographic Orion, because that would be up further north.
And I think the point also is even on your shorter itineraries, like 5 days, you can take a land excursion up to Denali. So you can explore that smaller area and then go further out by, by air. Right? Yeah. Let's see. Actually, I would like to end the question and answer with this because it's a nice one. It's not a question, it's a comment. This sounds amazing. I'm ready to plan my next vacation with you. So why don't we take that as a good cue for the ending? And I really want to thank you both for the time, for being with us, again, for your experience, for lending, your your wealth of background to us today. Thank you so much. And, we will have this program on our website, sustainableships.com. And we also have all of our other programs that we've had up until this point for anyone to view. But if you're viewing now, you signed on today, you will be getting an actual link from us very soon. In addition, Anna has added a menu or two on the attachment. So you'll get a menu from Anna. And we really do thank you all, for being our viewers today. And do take the time to go on sustainableships.com. We have some new content up there. You will probably be happy to see some of the information that we're showing that's very current about sustainability in industry and what the cruise lines are doing, and pointing out who's doing the job that you would expect in sustainability. And we will soon start a marketplace. So be on the lookout for that, which will have sustainable items and gadgets for a sustainable lifestyle. That's coming soon. So thank you again for being with us. And thank you, ladies, for joining us. Again, a really informative program. And let's all meet up again in Alaska sometime soon, okay? And to all of you, be sustainable.